Welcome to part 2 of our training for the SimplyHosted Plus platform. I wanted to start by showing you the email that the user receives when you create them for your customer. This is an example. Yours will be branded from yours, but otherwise it provides them information on their account, first name, last name. It does provide them their unique username. You can see the web password. It does not give that to them. It says you are the only one to know it. It's basically just saying you need to set your own password. Same for voicemail PIN. One thing I was going to mention, and it's in the training video for the call panel, is the user can change their own voicemail PIN. And then that keeps you from having to change it. You know, when they access voicemail from their desk phone, it will always ask for their PIN. So if they change it themselves via the call panel, it's easy for them to remember. The email also includes the QR code to provision their Clearly Anywhere. So once they download the app, they simply use the camera and it should provision for them. And then down at the bottom, they're going to see the link right here. This is going to take them to this, or it's going to take them to your reseller page. And they're going to type in their username. And then they're going to use the forgot password link. And the training video was just recently updated. If you go to cqsimple.com and under resources and under call panel, there's a training guide for the user, and it will walk them through that email, and it'll walk them through how to change their password or reset their password. Type in your username, forgot password, then that walks them through that. And I did want to show you this email. This is what they do receive, and it gives them the link. They can program their app, and then it gives them their username as well. All right, let's continue on with where we were. So let's get out of here. We're going to go into our system that we've been practicing with. We left off with the creation of end users, and then that's why I was showing you the emails there. If it's me programming the system, the next thing I go to is I start to create my ring groups, my auto attendants, my queues, my recordings, and my IVRs. So let's start with ring groups. On the left, if you scroll down, you'll see ring groups, and this is very similar to SimplyHosted. It's going to show you the ones you currently have right here. It's going to give you a little bit of information where it says groups extension 300 and 501. That's just the ring group number. And then it shows you who's in that and kind of how long they are called for, and then the strategy. So you do get some information right off the bat here without necessarily having to go into each ring group. If you wanted to edit it, it's the same idea for the entire system. You click on it and then you can edit it or you can delete it. But let's just say we want to add a new group. So the group name, let's just call this support. Groups extension, this is the ring group number. So this needs to be different from anything else. So we'll say 305. If you can click available extensions if you want, and it'll give you different options. You've got 3 different ring strategies. I'll let you read through those. Dial timeouts, this is how long it calls them for. And the failover destination is important. This would be if nobody in that ring group answers. Same thing as SimplyHosted. You put your phones in the ring group, and then you select what happens if nobody picks up. So you could set this to go directly to a voicemail box or a different ring group, failover ring group, or an auto attendant. And then in your members tab up here, this is where you get to select who is in this ring group. And so you've got a drop down for local phones. So you can choose, I want those 4 phones. And you can include external numbers as well. If you need to include someone's cell phone, you can include that here as well. You hit apply, and there you go. That's your ring group. So very straightforward. If you ever need to get back in here, simply highlight it and hit edit it, and you can change the failover destination. You can change the dial timeout or who is in here. Members as well. You can, if you need to get rid of somebody, you can get rid of them. Okay. Notice there's no apply configs. Once you save it, it's an instantaneous. Within a second or two, the phone system will route calls exactly how you just changed them. All right, so ring groups is one of the next things I do. If I am setting up queues, the system does have queues built in. The system also has queue reporting built in. So queue reporting does provide you some high-level information on your queues. It's not as in-depth as SimplyHosted queue reports. That obviously is a paid module for the SimplyHosted platform. But the queue reports on this are, they work. They kind of show you which agent is, the most active, who's taking the calls. But let's focus on the queue itself. So we've got our ring groups, we've got our queues. Let's go down here. There we go. I can't see it really clearly this morning. It's under calling queues, not just queues. Right? So same idea. You're going to see what's going on, what queues you already have created. Now this is actually a nice feature of SimplyHosted Plus. When you go to your queues, it gives you information on your agents directly from this page. So you can see we've got Q300. And then you've got, here's the agents and it's some information. But the color of this is interesting because right from this page, you can see what agents are logged in, logged off, or not online. So an agent logged in would be someone that's logged into the queue and their phone's online. Orange is they're logged into the queue, but their phone's not connected, which doesn't make them very useful. An agent logged off would be an agent that has pulled themselves out of the queue. Their phone might be online, but they've pulled themselves out of the queue, especially if you're working with dynamic agents. So as usual, you can click on it and edit it, delete it, or you can add a new one. So if we add a new one, let's just call this helpline. Name, department. So the name is actually the number, I'm sorry. So you need to give this 400 or an extension number or a queue number. If you want to put this into the department, you can. It's helpful for reporting packages. Here's where you add your agents. So we want to add in 1000, 1004. You've got some strategy here. I won't go through every single part of this. For those of you that have used queues before, you know that they're quite involved. You do have some ring strategy. You can distribute calls. You can do random, send it to the person that had the last call, sort of a thing, or ring all. Queue timeout. How long does that person stay in queue? And then your destination is important. What should happen to callers after they've timed out? Right now it's set at 60 seconds. After they've sat in queue for a minute, or say you set this to 360, so 6 minutes, what should happen to them? You can send them to a voicemail, or you can send them to another queue or a ring group. You get the idea. If you go up here, you have all sorts of options. So you've got advanced options, whether you allow for agents to pause themselves. You've got timing. How often should you retry agents? How many people should be allowed into a queue at a time? Can they join empty? Can they leave empty? This is where you set up your announcements to the caller. How often should you tell them what spot in line they are? Do you want to tell them what the average hold time is? How often should you play this announcement to them? Now, the SimplyHosted Plus does not have the ability to have queue callbacks. That is a module just for SimplyHosted, so customers can't put in their phone number, and the system will not call them back. That's not available on SimplyHosted Plus right now. But the queues are very robust in terms of reporting capabilities, and just in general queue reports. You can decide how often messages are played. So we'll go ahead and submit this. Right, so now we've just created a second queue. All right. The other thing I want to talk about was how to make a recording. So in SimplyHosted, that was system recordings. In this case, it's under announcements. So this is where you would create your auto attendant message, your night message, your day message, your lunch message, your holiday message, all those messages that you would play to somebody. Press 1 for this, press 2 for that, sort of a thing. As I mentioned, it's the system recordings portion. So if we click on announcements, It's going to take us to our announcements. We can, as usual, delete and edit ones that are already here. We can add one. So we give it a name here. So let's just call this lunch menu or lunch recording, lunch message. There we go. You can put a pin associated with it. In this case, at post destination, you can play this message and automatically go somewhere else. You don't necessarily have to do this. You can just leave it a message and then attach it on its own. For the message, you can upload it. So if you already have this, you just simply select it and upload it. Or you can do a text-to-speech. So you would select your voice type. And you can test with these and find one that works best for your customers. Most people are using the EN-US, so you can find one that works best for you. So we'll go with that. And you can type it right here. Thank you for calling Jim's. We are closed for lunch until 1 p.m. Please call back then. And then you press build and listen.
Thank you for calling Jim's. We are closed for lunch until 1 p.m. Please call back then.
Okay. So kind of gone are the days of typing in an extension number and the extension number rings, you pick up and you record it and hang up and name it. Now it's more give it a name, type it in, the system builds it, or you can upload it if you have messages from previous systems and then go ahead and create. And you've just created a system recording, or in this case it's called an announcement, and you have the ability in the announcement to, what we just made was an announcement. It's just going to play it. It's not going to do anything else. You can make it go somewhere else automatically if you want. Now if it's me, the next thing I would probably do is to create my IVRs. And now in this case, in SimplyHosted Plus, it's referred to as a digital receptionist. So right here, digital receptionist. So you can see what I like about this is you can start to see some information about the digital receptionist right off the bat. So if we add a new one, let's say we want to call this the lunch announcement or the lunch IVR. So here's your main announcement. So you can notice this populates it with our announcements, our system recordings. You can even add a pre-announcement. So if you want to kind of stack two announcements on top, and the pre-announcements, you can actually put a dates here if you want. And from here, it's very similar to IVRs in general. You can allow extension dialing. You can allow ring group dialing. You can decide what happens if they choose an option they shouldn't, or if they don't choose an option. If they choose the wrong option or invalid option, what happens to the calls? The default is terminate, but you can set it to other ring groups. And then here option, this is where you at the think of a bottom of an IVR, this is where you set up where the choices go. So if we add an option, if they press 1, then it goes to a ring group. Right? So this is where you're kind of setting up your tree. If they press 2, then it goes to a dial by name directory. If they press 3, right, then it goes to a queue. So it's very similar to IVRs. You choose where the options go. The biggest thing is be sure you attach your announcement or your greeting, which we already created, and hit apply. And right there, you have created your ring group, which you then use in your queue. So you've created your queues, and then you've created your IVRs, your digital receptionist here, which you then kind of put all the pieces together. All right, just to recap, we looked at ring groups, queues, announcements, which are system recordings, and digital receptionists, which in IVRs is the other way to think about it. In our next training session, we will take a look at time conditions, call flow controls, and then how to put those into use on your DIDs.